Guys, welcome back. Episode 9,
Woo!
which I'm pumped for. It's amazing that it goes by like so fast. But we have Andrea Fausett in the house, and pumped to have you. You're only the second woman, actually. One of
That's
two.
what I like to hear. Okay.
But we're pumped to have you. And I'm excited to be able to kind of jam on what you've got going on. I'm good friends with your husband. I met you through him. And I'm super impressed with your story. And it's crazy how you both are able to like balance that. Because like he's super driven in his thing with real estate investing school. And then you have Mama Lay.
Yep.
But you're both crushing it. And you have 2 kids.
Yep.
And somehow like balance it all, move to Hawaii, got all this stuff going on. You're from here, St. George, Utah, like
Yep.
Southern Utah, yes. And yeah, it's just crazy. There's not a lot of couples like you. I think you guys are kind of albatrosses in that sense.
Yeah, it's for sure interesting because it's like I never expected to be the entrepreneurship couple, to be honest. Like I feel like I always saw that in Brody, but for myself, I saw like I go to school, like I have my nursing degree, like I get a 4-year degree, like this is what I do. I'm going to work 9 to 5. If even that, I need to stay home with my kids. And so I never saw it for myself. So if anyone is listening, if anyone is listening and they're like, oh, like I'm not into entrepreneurship, I'm never going to start anything, just know like you don't know what you don't know. And I think just being open to like new ideas and new versions of yourself is such a cool concept. Like, hey, never say never.
Yeah.
You know, and be willing to accept that you're going to change and you're going to have different identities as you grow. And I think that's like such an empowering thought. And that's kind of how it was for me. I don't know if you want me to like dive into that.
I love
like
it.
Where
no,
you
I
want me to
love that
start.
because it's like, I say it all the time, like what you play in your mind is like what keeps you back from what you want to achieve and keep going. Like I love this idea.
Yeah. So Brody loves taking pride in this, but we
patented it.
Yeah, if he was here right now, he's like, "Ma, this was me." Yeah. But yeah, I got my nursing degree. I went to school. I was raised like very conservatively. Like you go to school, you get your degree, you get a job that's safe. Like as a nurse, you can always like work if you need to. You always have a job. And so I was doing that. And meanwhile, there's Brody, who's like going to school but not really liking it, changing his major a ton of times, and always listening to like self-help. He started with like Grant Cardone, 10X Habits, and all of these things. And I literally, we'd be in the car, I'd be like, turn it off. Like, I don't want to hear this, honestly.
Yeah.
And I was like so prideful to be like, I don't need to hear this. I've already got everything figured out. Please turn it off. And then I feel like slowly but surely I started like hearing it, you know, and being like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, like I never thought of it that way. And I work with a lot of people who are like, how do I get my spouse on board? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm like, I was that spouse that was like, I would support Brody, but I wasn't on board to like do any of that, you know? Yeah. And I'm grateful that Brody kept doing what he was passionate about, even though I had different passions at the time, and like letting me be me and letting him be him, but still finding that together. Yeah. And like eventually I did start learning that way, and that doesn't happen for everyone. There are still things we see differently. Yeah. But I just think it's like okay to know that like you can be different and you can also grow into that. So then it was like this thing where, okay, I own Momale. It's a company. We help women. We empower women to take control of their lives through health and fitness. That's what I like to say. Change their life through the power of community. Which,
by the way, I feel like almost every woman that I run into, and I mention one of you or if I mention Brody, it's like, oh my gosh, I knew Momale. Like every single one. And so I was like, I do Momale. I'm like, everybody just have the Momale.
Oh man, we have a good culture here in Southern Utah. It's super fun to have just like that close-knit community of women. But I had my first baby, Ray, the day I had her, and then I walked for nursing school the next day. I graduated the next day, okay? And I was exercising. I got into fitness right before we got married to get like super fit for our wedding. And I just like exercised through my pregnancy, didn't know what I was doing. And I just remember after I had Ray, I was like looking in the mirror, and I'll never forget this moment. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even recognize myself. Like, who am I? What's wrong with my body? Why do I feel crazy? And now I have like someone I need to take care of. And then I was also feeling really resentful that like Brody could just like go, I feel like he could just go do whatever. This like is so good. Get in the shower, like go to the gym. And I'm like, I'm stuck here with this baby who I love, but like, what is this, you know? And did I really just like let this happen? And I know that's not the case for everyone, but I really struggled with the newborn phase. And I just remember at that moment being like this is going to change me. Because when I have something that I feel like, oh, this doesn't really work, I'm always determined to like create change with that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how come no one talks about this? How come no one talks about how hard it is? How come no one tells me like how I should work out postpartum or like what I should be doing while I'm pregnant? And so I like was sharing this with friends and with Brody, and I became obsessed with learning about like exercising as like a woman and through pregnancy and postpartum and staying healthy and strong. And everyone was like, you just need to start sharing on Instagram. And I'm like, absolutely not. I am not that person. I don't even like know what to do. I mean, look at my posts from then. They are so scary. And eventually Brody kept pushing me, and I have this best friend. I'm still best friends with her. And she was like at my house, and she's like, let's just film a video. Like, just start it. We're going to post a workout video inside your house. And I'm like, no, I'm not fit enough. Like, our house isn't perfectly clean. Like, no. And she's like, no, right now we're doing it. So she literally filmed me. It's still on my Instagram. It was like my first video. And I did it. And then I ended up posting it. And I'm like, wow, if there's anything that taught me or hopefully teaches anyone else, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to feel like the right time. I can promise you that. I have learned that so many times in my life. But there is so much power in just starting. Just starting, because like the only way to know what path you should go is to start. If you never turn on your car, it doesn't matter how sure you are of where to go. You will never get there until you turn your car on, right? And so it's just like that was the stepping stone. I just started sharing. Was it instant fame and success? No, absolutely not. In fact, for the first 2 years, it was like I wanted to delete my Instagram truly every other day because I felt so stupid. Yeah, I really did. I quit nursing. I quit my nursing job.
I'm going to pause you
yes,
there
pause.
for a second because
pause me.
I'm thinking, you've said it a couple of times, like I felt stupid. My videos, like this is how everyone feels.
Yes.
Right? On Instagram, and they want to influence people and they want to help themselves, but they're helping other people in the process. So everyone feels this way. But what was this? What was the thoughts that were going through your mind specifically, like the soundtrack? Why did you want to delete it every other day? Like what were you telling yourself in those moments so that people can hear this? Because now you have a huge following. Yeah. You've become extremely successful. So if you would have listened to that voice, it would have never happened. So what was that voice telling you?
Totally. You know, the voice was like, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. Like I felt I didn't have a lot of followers. I'm posting like I'm a quote unquote influencer. Yeah. And people are judging me. And I know people were judging me. Like I know family members were saying things. I know friends were saying things. It's like, who does she think she is? And I did feel dumb. And every time when people would ask like, oh, what do you do? I'd be like, oh, I was a nurse and then I stopped and now I'm just at home. And Brody would be like, yeah, but you're like sharing about, I'm like, no, like, cause it felt so not real to me. And like, I have very few things that I would change in life, to be honest. Cause I'm like, it's all learning and growth. But what I wish I would have stepped into is that identity sooner of like, no, this is what I do. I help women. I empower women to take control of their lives through health and fitness. And we can get into that. But it's like, everyone thinks that, oh, it's different for me. I always like to say like, no one's a special snowflake. Like we're all going through these things. And the difference between people that find success and people that don't is like, they work that muscle. They're good at like working past the fear. I love like this timeline idea. If everyone was to picture like a dot, okay, it's like the end of the road and it was your comfort zone, okay? And then there's an arrow going forward and it's an arrow at the end. So it's this continuous arrow and at the end is growth, right? So you have comfort and you have growth. But then in the middle, I'm going to put another dot, a big, huge black dot, and it's fear. Feeling stupid, feeling inadequate. And like so many of us are sitting here in this comfort zone and we're feeling really good. And then we have this idea and we want to move to growth. It doesn't matter whatever area that is in life, right? Yeah. We want to move to growth, but what do we hit? We hit that fear bubble. We hit that fear dot every single time. I promise you, if you are reaching for anything that's outside of your normal, you will hit that fear bubble. And it's like, but we hit it and then we go, this is uncomfortable. I can't do it. So we go right back to the other dot. And the only way through comfort, through to growth is through fear every single time. And I wish I would have learned that sooner. But now that I know that, I feel like I just opened this huge door in my life because when I feel that, and I feel it all the time, still, all the time, I'm like, no, it almost feels like the world's going to collapse. And then I make it through and I'm like, okay, I just ended up back at growth, you know? But guess what? After growth comes comfort again. Right. and then fear,
Mhm.
and then growth. And so I just think like, especially women, a lot of us have kids, a lot of us have families, right? And it's like, this is our comfort zone, or maybe what we feel like we have to do because that's how our mom did it.
Right.
That's how our friends do it. And this is what's safe. But like, if there is something that's on your mind that is like calling to you and something that's great, or you just want to try something different, go for it. Because guess what's always going to be sitting right here if it doesn't work out? Comfort.
Yep.
We can always come back to what we were doing, but we can't like get that growth in any other way.
Nobody gets to the top of the mountain on accident.
No, absolutely not.
You have to try, right?
Yes. And that, yeah.
There's a book that I'm reading right now. It's exactly what you're saying, and I'm almost done with it, but it's called The War of Art.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all about like fear and resistance. That there's in life, you'll always hit fear and resistance in everything that you do, and you'll hit a new, like you have a floor and then you hit a new ceiling.
Yes.
And then you just new floor, new ceiling, new floor, new ceiling. And through that process, as your analogy is perfect, you're just going to keep hitting that fear and resistance.
Yep.
It will always meet you. And the idea is that you just have to lean into it.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes.
You got to find a way to lean in.
And like expect it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
Like I know this is coming. I work with women who want to lose weight. Generally, that's the main thing. Lose weight and tone up, you know? And it's like I can work with a client over and over and over again. And guess what happens? Every single time they do really, really good. And then discouragement comes, right? And it's like, I was doing so good. Now this happened, or I didn't hit my macros, or I missed my workout. And it's like so quick to be like, I'm a failure. I quit, right? But I'm like, wait, no. Like we need to rewrite what discouragement is, what fear is, so that when discouragement comes knocking at your door, when fear comes knocking at your door, because it will, I promise it will, when you're on the path to greatness, you're like, hey, I expected you.
Right.
I knew you were coming. I know how I'm going to get through you. So when the disappointment comes, when I don't hit my macros, when something I do in business fails, I'm like, yep, it's part of the process. Right. And the only way through it is to keep going. And I just think like, as I grow and learn to like expect that, I expect it to happen. And it's not scary when it comes now because I know it's coming.
Right.
It's going to come. And so just knowing that like whatever goal it is you're trying to achieve, maybe you just want to be a more patient wife. Maybe you want to be a more patient mom or husband or spouse. Like you're going to have days where you're not very patient, but it doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're like, hey, I knew I was going to have a day that I wasn't great. And that's okay. Because then what's the next best thing I can do? You know, what's the next best step? And I just think it's so empowering to think that way.
This is so good to hear from you because I think when I hear other people, women talk about you, or even other guys, they're like, Andrea's got it together. Like she's good with people, she's good at talking, she's good on camera, she's got this amazing business, it's successful, and I think they do think that you've just always been that way. Like that's what they see you as now, and so for them, I don't even think they remember what you felt.
Totally.
They don't feel that, oh, you didn't have that many followers, or I'm insecure, imposter syndrome, or any of that you just said. They just see you for where you're at now. And so to be able to have you say that on camera, on the podcast, I feel like that vulnerability is what we need out there.
Yes.
Like, hey, you can do it too. I was there. You can do it. Whatever you're feeling, I felt it. Yep. I felt depression. I felt like, who am I? I looked in the mirror and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But now you've built this crazy cool business and now you're helping so many people.
Yeah. And that's honestly what I'm most passionate about is like, health and fitness is the tool that we use to teach women to take control of their lives. Because like, if you can learn to keep promises to yourself and believe in the things that you say, then that changes your entire life. And like for us in Momly, the step for that is being like, okay, if you say you're going to work out at 7 a.m., let's teach you how to actually be there and work out at 7 a.m. and not be like, oh, well, I missed it. Like I'm a failure, you know? And so I think that's like the big thing that separates us in business. And that's what I'm so passionate about. And I'll read reviews after challenges are in the app. And it's like, it changed my life. Like it changed who I am. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. They did the work, right? Yeah. We provided the framework, but being willing to create that change. And as soon as you start in one area of your life, like it trickles into every area of your life. And everything you're saying, like, yeah, I felt scared. I have not always been this way. Absolutely not. And I still have so many moments where I doubt myself big time, but I just have learned to expect it so much more. And like, I just imagine like that same person. That's who I picture when I create content, when I write posts, when I'm working on app updates, is I picture myself looking in the window, in the mirror, because I'll never forget that moment. And I'm like, someone else is looking in the mirror right now. They don't recognize who they are. They don't know how to start. They don't know how to take control. And I want to be the one to change their life and to help them.
That was like your trauma that sparked
Yes.
it, right? And then you'll always go back to
100%.
that's your part of your why. Is somebody else is feeling that way
You're perfectly positioned to serve the person you
that
used
you
to be.
once were.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love the thought too, because I know you've said that you're passionate about this, is just like keeping the promises you make to yourself. One of the things that I've talked about with that is be careful with the promises that you make to yourself. I know you and Brody are big planners because I see you plan. I see it on your social media, and I love planning as well. And one of the things that I'll think about the night before when I'm planning for my next day or weekly planning is everything that goes on this piece of paper I am committing to. Do I intend to actually do this? Because if I put it down and I don't do it, that brings to me, and I've talked to Corinne about this, my wife, a lack of confidence.
Yep.
But if I can just like go with me here for a second, and listeners, go with me here. Even if it's like I want to read a self-development book and you say I'm going to do it for 3 minutes, that seems so small. But the hit that you get from it is almost the same as if you did it for an hour.
Yes.
Right? So it's just like, it's atomic habits. Like just start somewhere and don't feel like you have to go all the way to 30 minutes of reading a book or an hour, because that hit will propel you. You almost become addicted to that.
This is literally, this is the stuff that fires me up, because like Brody does goal setting retreats. I love sitting in and hearing people's goals, because almost every single person has a health and fitness goal.
Yes.
And almost every person's like, I want to be healthier.
In Brody's mastermind that we did this last year, we talked about health and fitness more than any other subject.
Yes.
It was like at least an hour and a half, and every other subject was like 30 minutes max.
Yes.
You're so right.
Yes. It's like,
that's what they want.
Everyone wants to like unlock this secret thing to like, how do I like actually change my diet, and how do I actually exercise? And like, I've coached over 10,000 clients. Like, I feel like this is the one area where I'm like, okay, I know when you're going to succeed and I know when you're going to fail. Of course, we all want instant gratification, and that's what makes most of us fail. But like, let's say I have a client come to me and they're like, this is no judgment, but like, let's say they're waking up at like 10 a.m. They're eating Lucky Charms for breakfast, and they're like chilling and watching TV all day, and they go to bed at midnight. And this is the client that will come and say, hey, I'm motivated. I am ready. Eric, it's going. Like, I'm ready. This is going to happen, okay? And I'm listening. And they're like, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm not going to eat any treats. I'm going to work out for 2 hours at the gym, and I'm going to bed at 8 p.m.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah, these are
I'm
great.
all in, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, like, and they're like, give me the hardest thing. Give me the hardest macros. Give me the hardest nutrition. And I'm like, those are great goals. I'm never going to let you do that. It's like, why not, you know? Because you're going to fail. And then guess what happens when you fail? You're going to go right back to where you were, and you're going to say you're a failure, and you're going to say you're a horrible person, and you're like, something's wrong with you. You're inherently broken, and it doesn't work for you. And then you're going to be on the cycle, and then you're going to get motivated again, and the same thing's going to happen. And I promise, if you take this person, if this is you, listen, if you take this person, you're like, no, like, all I'm going to allow you to do is walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes a day for a week.
Yeah.
That's it. If you do that every single day for the next 7 days, I'll let you add the next thing, right? And then we're slowly going to build. And that person, what they don't realize is like, in 3 months, they will be way better off with that goal. Even if they just walked 30 minutes a day every day for 3 months, they would be better off than the person that set those huge, crazy goals. And like, yes, goal setting is so important, but absolutely, when I'm doing something, I guard my commitment like nothing else, because I have to do it.
Yes.
Like, I have to do it. And it's just like, we quit on ourselves. I love sharing the story, but Brody and I ran an ultra marathon together.
Yeah, remember that.
It was 171 miles. It was a stage race. You had to carry everything you needed to survive on your back. We were so underprepared. We'd never ran an ultra, and this is like the top 10 toughest in the world. And we realized what we were getting ourselves into after day one. It was bad, right? And it was literally the worst time of my life. I thought I was going to die, but it's taught me a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons is that in all of the training leading up to it, every single time we would like finish our training runs, I would close my eyes and I would envision the finish line. No lie. Every time. And I would just picture that feeling. And then leading up to the race, I did so much work. I'm like, no, like just as much mental work as physical work. I'm like, I don't care if I crawl I will finish this race. That's how committed, and like I believed it with every ounce of my being. Okay. Easy to say beforehand. Fast forward to like 2 days into the race when my feet are so swollen I can't fit them in my shoes, and I cried every single mile because I thought I was going to die. And I ended up finding I was pregnant halfway through the race with Mia. And I
That's
just,
kind of cool.
yeah, it was actually really cool. I begged them. I'm like, don't make me stop. I want to finish. And they let me finish. But I just remember one night, like you had to make it to these little checkpoints every night. And there was like 70 people racing. You race for your country. You wear your flag on your sleeve. And there are these 2 guys from Germany, and they were finishing in the top 10, like the last 2 days. And me and Brody were like, definitely not. We were in the back. Okay. And I was listening to them talk, and I just remember him being like, oh, my body's hurting so bad. Like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it. And this is their second time trying to finish the same race. Okay. And it's a really expensive, really hard race. And I just, after hearing them talk, Brody and I are like talking the next day, and I'm like, they're not gonna finish because I just heard them talk and they've already quit.
In their mind.
They don't believe that they can do it. You know, are they capable? Absolutely. But they don't believe they can do it. And here I am, way less capable, but I believe I can finish. I don't know how, but I know I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. The next day they dropped out. We passed them. They dropped out of the freaking race. And I'm like, you're not injured? Like, what is going on? And I'll never forget that. There's so many times in my life where I just am like, I picture them and I'm like, no, I am committing to this. What I commit to, I finish, and I know I can do it. And just like it's those small promises, though.
The belief system, though, is
yes,
money.
You have to believe that you can do it, and you build self-belief by small promises. So stop making huge promises that you know you can't keep, and you know that.
Right.
The big goal's not going to get you there. The small steps, the small habits, the small actions, like that is what will get you there. And you got to think of it in like a long-term thing. Like to me, we have 6-week challenges. We used to have 30-day challenges. Now they're 6 weeks in Momley. I'm like, it's great. I'm excited to see your results after 6 weeks. But what's the most important to me is in 5 years, if I knock on your door, I want to see you're doing the same things. And to me, that's ultimate success.
Yeah.
Ultimate success.
That's so cool. I can vibe with that for sure. I feel kind of lucky, maybe blessed in a way that I've been able to just have a natural mindset of kind of what you're talking about. Like, no, I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be average. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be behind the pack. Like, no, I'm going to be elite. Like, I'm going to be, and so, but for people like me, like us, like whoever that wants to be good, we have to be careful, like who we're around.
Yep.
Because maybe we'll be the top of that container, but there's another container.
Totally.
That you'll be the lowest in.
Yep.
And so it goes back to that comfort zone, right? Of like, well, now you're still in your comfort zone. So new floor, new ceiling. And we have to keep pushing. The only way to be able to push past new levels is to be able to network with other people and grow and progress. But going back to what you're saying that I love the most, because I kind of got off a little bit on that, is that belief system, just that thought, I'm going to finish.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
Mitch Matthews was on my podcast like 2 times ago. I know you know Mitch and his wife.
Oh, I know Mitch.
We love Mitch. And he was talking about in the NFL, he said the difference between playing college and being around guys in the NFL locker room. In college, the best players believe that they belong there. There was a few on the team. There's a few on the team. In the NFL, every single person was like, I am the best freaking linebacker in the world.
Yeah.
Well, they can't all be.
Totally.
But in their mind, they're the best.
Yep.
And you have to believe that.
Totally.
You have to.
Your thoughts create your beliefs create your actions create your results.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, until you're willing to do that, and I just already know, like, it's like, well, it's different for me, or I have my kids, or I have this and I have that. And I just think instead of saying, but it's different for me, I love the thought of like, and like for me, I think I am an incredible mom, and I'm also a great business owner. And like those things can coexist. And so it's that all or nothing mindset that we talked about. Like if I can't do everything for my goals, then like why do anything?
Yeah.
The same thing for like motherhood, business. It's like you can be both. And that's something that I'm so passionate about. It's not all or nothing. It's always something. So when I'm with my kids, there's always something I can give. And when I'm with them, we have fun and I'm so present. So present. And when I'm with my work, Like, that's what I'm focused on. And both make me like innately happy for me.
Yeah.
And it's enhanced who I am. And like growing up, I felt a lot of pressure to be a stay-at-home mom. And there was a season where I felt like I wasn't being as great of a mom because I worked. And even now, I mean, I work like 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Because I choose to do that. But it's like, now I'm just like, wow, that was so false, because I think all of this that I do in work is actually what also makes me a great mom. And I love empowering my kids where I'm like,
Yeah.
the sky is the limit, Miss Ray and Mia. Like,
yeah. But now they can actually see that mom did it
Yes.
instead of somebody that's like, the sky's the limit. But then they look at you as they get older because they're going to catch the BS one day.
yes,
And be like, well, but mom, why didn't you do it?
totally. And
But now they can say that,
yes,
did.
it's like I did. And I love telling my kids, like, when we're doing things, like, I'm like, I feel fear too. Like, I'll tell Ray this because she's learning so many things. She's in skateboard lessons in Hawaii. And I was telling her, like, you got this, drop in. And she's like, it's so scary. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even know how it is. So I'm going to do it. So I started taking skateboarding lessons. I've never skateboarded in my life. And oh my gosh, it is super scary. Dropping in is horrible, you know?
Yeah.
And I've fallen and I've gotten so hurt. But now I'm just like, Ray, it's okay to feel fear. We don't let fear win. And it's like, she will say that. You ask her anytime, Ray, it's okay to, she's like, to feel fear, but we don't let fear win. And I'm like, amen. If you say that over and over and over again, like, I want you to know that this is hard for me too.
Yeah.
And I'll tell her, like, oh, I'm so scared to do this, Ray. Like, I have this Momly event and I'm feeling so scared, because I want her to know that. And I want like everyone to know that. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I have so many things I can work on. And that's what makes it exciting though. And I think looking at people, like having role models, having people you look up to, don't look to them. This is what I've had to learn to do, is don't look to them and be like, oh, well, I could never be them. Look at them as proof that, like, if you want something, it's possible. Like, it's literally every time I see someone do that, I'm like, sweet, that means I can do it. And one of my favorite phrases I tell myself is, no one is more capable than me. That's what I always say to myself, not in a cocky way,
I love that.
but in a way of like, no, I truly believe that no one on this earth is more capable than me to do what I'm meant to do. And I mean, not to get religious, but I'm like, whatever you believe in, like, we're put on this earth to progress, not to be stagnant. And the way we progress is going to look different for everyone. Your path to greatness for you is different. My path to greatness for me is different. So like, yes, look to others to motivate you, but know, like, innately, you have greatness that you need to achieve. And the only way to do that is to be going through this timeline, right? To face the fear, to move forward past the fear. And like, that's where ultimate fulfillment comes from, is being like, yeah, that was hard. That was scary. And I did it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again and again and again. And like, that to me is success at the end of my life. It's not how much money I have. It's not the car I drive. It's really not. And I've learned a lot of that living in Hawaii. I'm like, wow, like ultimate fulfillment to me is like at the end of each day, and then the end of each month, and then the end of each year, looking back and being like, I pushed past fear, you know? And I'm not the one to be like, grind it out all the time and like, blah, like just grind and work. Like, no, there's beauty in so many different facets of life, and just like learning to find that, you know?
That's so good. I've always admired the fact that you and Brody have been able to push that way. Like, I see it, I feel it, and it's something that's like inspired me in a lot of ways to like see Brody, because me and Brody have known each other for so long.
Yeah.
And I always saw Brody as like just, I want to say this in the best way, but like an equal, right? Like, I knew him.
Yeah.
I knew who he was.
Totally.
We played baseball with him. I played wrestling, football,
Totally.
everything. And I was like, no, I feel like I'm with him and all of that stuff. And then it seemed like I like blinked and he's like, poof, taking off on this like path. And I'm like, wait, exactly what he said. I was like, if he can do that, I can.
Yes.
I can totally do that.
Yes.
And so it's funny because like, this is even funnier. Like, this is like maybe a kind of weird TMI for this podcast. Hopefully no one listens to this, but it's like, Corinne will be like, why do you like melon hats? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, is it because Brody wears them? I was like, I don't know, maybe. It's like, why do you like no-bull shoes? I don't know.
Yes.
Is it because Brody likes them and wears them?
Maybe.
Maybe. And I like started thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like doing all the things that Brody's doing, because I'm like, what does success look like?
Yep.
He's done it. I know Brody. It's like, just follow the same freaking path and believe that you can do it too.
Totally. And it's like,
just funny.
that's actually hilarious. He will love to hear that way too
We won't
much.
share it
Eric.
with
Yeah,
him.
we'll
He's a
definitely cut
big
that part
party.
out. Yeah, he doesn't need that. He already knows that. I just did a training on Monday night, and I was talking about like 11 habits that will transform your life. And what we're talking about like has me thinking about it. One of them was like creating a clear vision on what you want. And I think this really trips up a lot of people, because it's like, well, I don't really know what I want, right? I don't really know what I'm passionate about. And I hear that from a lot of women too. They're like, I'm really passionate about my kids. And I'm like, yes, that is so great. So like, what is your vision with your children? And just remembering that like, it doesn't have to be some crazy business idea or like you want to make $100 million. Like, it can be a lot smaller than that, and not even smaller. It's just different, right? Like, but if we don't know what we want, then how will we ever get there?
Yeah.
And so just like the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you're willing to ask yourself. And I really believe that. And so being like, asking yourself those questions, well, like, what am I focused on this week? What am I focused on today? And what am I focused on this month? And it doesn't have to do anything with work. Like, what is it that you want to get better at? And what is it that you want to improve? And get so clear on that. Something I love to do is I love journaling at night. I haven't always, but I've forced myself to do that habit. And I always stop at the end of each night and I write down a situation where I didn't respond how I wanted to. And then I write the response that I wanted, and I write it 3 times. That way it's like in my head. And I feel like that has given me so many like clear visions, because you notice the things you're not great at when you're writing down how you poorly responded. Like being frustrated, at Brody for doing something where I'm like, oh, that was actually kind of ridiculous. Or maybe it wasn't, but like, oh, I didn't like how I responded. And that's given me like, when it's like, well, what vision should I take? It's like, just start focusing on things you want to improve in your life.
Yeah.
And that will start giving you a vision too. And like, as you do those things, doors open, pathways open, and things come. Like, I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing today.
That is so
honestly.
true. I was telling somebody about that the other day that I coach, is like, if you're not journaling and paying attention to, like, I will read the day before so I know where I was yesterday, and then I write the one for that day. And it's so weird, like, I will forget the thing that I wrote before until I read it again.
Oh, yeah.
Totally will. Every single time. And so, but I go and read that because then I kind of know where I'm at.
Totally.
And then it's like you said, it's like, okay, where am I going?
Yes.
And the actions that I did today that were on my task list, were they the things that are going to add up to where I'm going?
Yep.
Like, is that, checking that off the list, did that add up? Is that where I want to go?
And like, how much better is it too to just be feeling like we're progressing, and we're like, I'm happier when I'm doing those things. I'm a better wife. I'm a better mother. I'm a better everything. And it's like, that's why we're doing it, is because it makes us better and it makes us feel better.
Yes. It's been so fun. I have this question that, like, if I wanted to ask 4 times, I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
Because it's been so fun to like jam back and forth. But I got to ask this question because it's just like, everything that you're saying to me is like, push through fear. I had to do it too. I wasn't happy with my body after I was pregnant for the first time. I didn't know who I was, right? Let's go back to that for a second and kind of hit a different nail. I feel like, and I mean this in the best possible way, I really do, I feel like a lot of women struggle with that.
Absolutely.
A lot.
Oh my gosh.
And I think it's different than men. And I don't know what it is, hormonal, whatever. And there is science behind, like, when pregnancy and when you get pregnant or when you're done with pregnancy, your hormones are all over the place. That plays tricks on your brain. Okay, so that's going to play a different soundtrack in your brain that's going to affect you. You coach women on this all the time. What do you teach these women to help empower them to live their best life when they're going through all of that up and down emotional swing?
Yeah, and it's so hard. And I can definitely relate to this. I like had severe postpartum with both my babies, and I've had like antenatal anxiety, just like so many things that I never experienced prior to pregnancy that have like come from being pregnant. And one, like, it's cool to know that you're not alone, because I think that's one of the biggest things is like, every time I've shared something vulnerable, what surprised me the most is that's always the post I get the most comments on, because everyone comes saying, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think that's where we have power in our vulnerability. And I think anytime we feel like it's just us, like I'm the only one that this is happening to because no one else is talking about it, that makes us feel pretty isolated. So I think first is knowing you're not alone. like other people have felt this way and other people have gone through it. And like, that's exciting to hear and makes you feel so much better. And then honestly, like it all sounds so simple, but like those are the people where I'm like, hey, let's start. Tell me one thing you know you can do, right? What's one small thing? And it's like, okay, I know I can go on a walk 10 minutes outside a day with my baby. I'm like, okay, how many days a week can you do that? Realistic. Get really realistic with me. And it's like, okay, 4. Like, okay, what days? You know?
Yeah.
Okay, now who's going to hold you accountable? Me? Do you want me to hold you accountable? Is your husband going to hold you accountable? Who are you choosing to help hold you accountable to this? And it's just, it really sounds so simple. And it doesn't mean that all the problems will go away. And if it was ever serious, obviously, like talk to a doctor. You may need medication, stuff like that. But it's like, it's the small things. They add up. I promise you they do. I know it sounds so simple, but it's like, okay, now let's add in a little bit of journaling. Now let's see who you can talk to. And it's like, that's how you keep moving forward. And in Momolay, I had an interview with Forbes and we were talking about like the Momolay community. And that's something I'm like, oh my gosh, it is crazy to me. Our community is unreal. It is the coolest group of women. People have formed like lifelong friendships. I just am like, they show up for people over and over and over again. I'm like, it's because everyone's starting with that same base of like, hey, I'm here, I'm being vulnerable. And then the person next to me is being vulnerable and the person next to me is being vulnerable. And it's just like, okay, what's one way I can show up today? And it's not about like being perfect. It's not about like working yourself to death. It's just like showing up for you day after day. And that's what's going to make you your best self. And that's what's going to leave you empowered, you know, and you can do it. It's possible. I promise you it's possible. It's possible for you.
I love that. There's a book that's sitting on my desk right now that I'm reading. And, God, I have to look over. But Simon Sinek.
I love Simon Sinek.
What is it? Your why. Finding your why or, God, I can't even remember. It's sitting over here. Start with why. That's what it's called. And one of the stories that he tells in there, I think relates so much to Momolay. And he talks about Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how the whole I have a dream speech.
Yeah.
That black men and white men, and like we can coexist, and I don't know the whole speech by verbatim.
Yeah.
But it's powerful, right? And it just moved the country. And his whole thing was they didn't show up that day to hear Martin Luther King speak.
Yes.
They showed up that day for them.
I love it.
Because they believed the same thing that he believed.
Yep.
They showed up for them.
So powerful.
They were the hero.
Yes.
In the story. And Momolay, I feel like, is the same thing. They've been through the same stuff, but you now just get to lead them and create an ecosystem, container, a big container now, where they can live that and show up for them.
Totally.
But feel like the same empowerment that you felt.
Yep.
They're feeling the same thing.
Totally.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's so cool and it's so fun to see that switch in people. Like there are people now that have been with me for years, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh, like they're the ones teaching the next group. They're the ones commenting. They're the ones that are saying that in the post, like, you can do this. This was me. This was me. This was me. And it's just like, it's just so cool to see that progress. And I think like building, I've been asked for like, oh, how did you build, you know, a community and a following? And I think like focusing on, I never was doing it to like start a business.
Mm-hmm.
I was never doing it to make money, like, to be honest. That was like the one thing that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be that person. Like,
and Brody said the same thing.
Oh.
He's like, Andrea will like lose money on an event because she's passionate about it.
I literally will. It makes him so mad. I'm like, nope, everyone gets this. Yeah. And like, I want everyone to have it. I don't care that we lose money. It's fine because it builds community and community will show up. And Brody, it's funny because I didn't charge a lot for a long time. And I ended up launching, like, it was right when COVID was happening. I ended up launching I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you guys monthly workouts if you sign up. And I had like a successful month, the most successful month I'd had. And that's when our minds were like, oh, we should build an app, you know, like, let's start building an app. And so we started working towards that. And then we launched the app 2.5 years ago. And it was like in 1 month, my life completely changed. Upside down. I could have never imagined, even to this day, like, we have an event on Saturday. I'm absolutely humbled and still like, what is this? Like, how did this happen? But like, honestly and truly, I care so much about people because it was me and it still is me. And I'm still growing past that. And that's like the cool part is like, yes, now the money and the business allows me to do more for more people. And I love having like a team that can help so I can be home more. But it's just like ultimately people kept showing up. And I think just like being real, like I remember when I first started posting on Instagram, I was like, I only had regular peanut butter in my pantry. This is so dumb.
Mhm.
But I was like, oh my gosh, all the influencers are posting organic, natural peanut butter. And like, so that's what I need to post. And I just stopped myself and I'm like, no, like this is who I am.
Love it.
I eat regular peanut butter. I don't buy organic. So I'm just going to share that.
I love it.
And I was like, this was like a turning point for me. And I just remember I got on Instagram and I'm like, okay, so this is what I'm making. Honestly, like I just use regular peanut butter because that's all we have. Like I don't buy organic. And all of a sudden, and then nothing against organic, but all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my gosh, I just buy regular too. And that was like the moment where I'm like, if I have a platform, why am I ever trying to be like anyone else?
I love it.
Like people are following me for me. And if you don't want to be there, please don't be there, you know? And like if you don't want to be in our community because it doesn't align with what you want, then don't be there. But just like whatever you're doing, don't try to do it like anyone else. You can be inspired by others, but if you don't know who you are at your core, if you don't know like your identity and who you are, then like how do you know what you want to share and how you want to show up? And that's another thing we do a lot of is like identity work, you know, like why do you do what you do and who are you and what do you want out of life? And if you don't know what that is, starting to get clear on that, like I am the person who what?
Yeah.
You're the person who does what, you know, because your identity guides like who you are and what you do. And we don't want to be a chameleon, right?
No.
We don't want to just like fade. It's like, no, I want to power through. And I love doing that. Even now, like if I make a decision, I stop and I'm like, is that really for me? Like if no one could see the results of your goals, would you have the same goals? That's always the question I ask myself. Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
For other people to see it or because I innately want it?
Yeah.
And so anyways, just another good thought topic.
And that's really good too. I remember thinking one time in high school, one of my teachers asked me, he's like, do you wear that shirt because of what you want to look, because you like it, or because of the way that you want other people to perceive you? What about your pants? What about your shoes?
Yes.
What about the way you walk? What about your haircut? And I started thinking about it. I was like, 99% of everything that I bought, did, said, the cool words that come out of your mouth in high school,
Totally.
like the N words, it's because of how you want other people to perceive you.
Yes.
So it like takes a lot to
So
break it
much.
down and be like, do I want this for me?
Yes.
Or is it because I want people to be able to see me a certain way?
100%.
And for you, it was Skippy peanut butter or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was freaking peanut butter, man.
And
And I feel like I went through another change like that moving to Hawaii. Like moving from Utah to then like Hawaii where all of a sudden everything's different. People care about different things. Like they don't care what car you drive. They care how good you can surf or they care. Like, does that make sense? It's just like I went from
they
like,
value something different.
like I had fake eyelashes, blonde hair, and now I'm sitting here like just out of the lake
Yeah.
on a podcast
Yeah.
getting filmed. But I had to do like my world has been flipped upside down the last year and a half, to be honest. Completely flipped upside down because I had a full identity shift, Eric. Like I sat at the beach in Hawaii after living there for like 3 weeks and I'm like, who am I?
Mm.
Because was I just doing things because those are the people I was around? What do I actually want?
So good.
But like that is okay. It's okay to have these shifts. That doesn't mean I was failing when I lived in Utah. And I hope I continue to have those shifts throughout the rest of my life
Yeah.
because that means I'm growing. But oh man, have I done a lot of work. Like I changed a lot of things in my business. I took a lot off my plate. I was putting unnecessary pressure on myself for so many different reasons. And it's like, I literally say I would never want to repeat the last year and a half. Like truly, it has been painful growth. And not a lot of people know the journey that I've been through. But it was just like, it was a new awakening to like what I want out of life.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was like, I wanted to be home more. Honestly, I wanted to worry a little bit less about business. And I wanted to just be and enjoy a little bit because I am like a go-getter. And I'm like, I want to learn to be at the beach with my kids. And I want to learn to just like be present. And I'm like, I can sit with that this year. I love the thought of like stretching and then stabilizing. Like we stretch and then we stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'd been going through a lot of stretch. And now I'm like, this year's my stabilize year. That is my vision. This is what we're doing. So now when things come up, I'm like, is it in line? Oh, that's such a good business opportunity. But like, it's not with what my vision is for this year. And I revisit that constantly. Same with this summer. We're traveling a ton. And I'm like, I don't want to work a lot. I want to be fully there during this season. Am I missing out on some money and opportunities? Absolutely. But do I gauge all of my success based off of money? Absolutely not. And so it's just like getting clear with those ideas, and it's been so great.
So good. So good. So many like mic drop moments there. Oh man. Not a lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
Not a lot of
Yeah.
people
And I
that
think
way.
in the business world, like I want to like kind of put a splash there because I think it's obviously very male dominated, and it's very like more success, more grind, like stay up later, wake up earlier. He's working while you're sleeping. I'm like,
There's a big push for that right now.
that's okay.
Yeah.
She can work, he can work while I sleep because I'm choosing to sleep. And I was on a walk the other day. I've like fallen in love with walking, which is so weird because I used to not be able to walk. I had to run. I'm very competitive. And I literally pulled out my phone. I haven't even posted the reel yet, but like someone was running by me. And in the past, that would have just like, it's a problem. I'm really competitive. Okay. I would have just made me like want to run and be like, I can show you I'm faster than you.
Yeah.
And I just thought like, just because they're running doesn't mean I have to, because today I'm here to walk.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I chose to do. And that's what I'm doing. And when I'm ready to run, I know myself and I know that I can like, I'm revisiting that vision and I will be running again, you know, but I'll be running in business maybe. Right now I'm just like running in motherhood and I'm walking in business, but like nothing's giving. And it's funny because it's almost been more fulfilling in business. And I've had employees step up to the plate that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like now they're getting that. Like they're getting the stretch and that's what they wanted and that's what they needed. And so just getting so clear on that and knowing that success doesn't mean like grinding yourself into the grave. There are many different definitions of success.
Let me ask you a question, vulnerable question.
Okay.
You can choose not to answer it, but it's not that bad.
We'll cut it out.
Yeah, we can cut this out. Luke's a good editor. We talk about like getting clear on our goals. We mentioned it a couple times in this podcast. And how clear do you think people can get on their goals? Like, if that makes sense, at what point do they just go?
Yeah.
At what point do they just go towards, hey, I have an idea. My target's over here.
Mm-hmm.
It looks kind of like this. Like at what point? Like a percentage, like 50% clear, 75, 100%. Because, and this is why I ask it.
Mm-hmm.
You hear so many people say, get crystal clear on who you are, what your purpose is, where you're going. And I think it can distract people sometimes when we think of it too literal.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, you're not 100.
Yes.
Ever. Yeah. You've just said it like 2 times in this podcast. Like, I wasn't here this period of my life, and the last year and a half was really tough. Like, I'm changing, I'm evolving. I'm not trying to be a chameleon, like you mentioned.
Totally.
But like, I'm trying to grow. And so things are moving and shifting and changing. So I'm really curious to know your opinion on how clear you feel like you need to be before you just send it.
Totally. Okay. I think, so when I started Momlay, I couldn't see the vision that it is now. I like knew I was capable of like not quitting and moving forward, but like I couldn't have this crystal clear vision of what the company is now. Like I couldn't have imagined that, honestly, especially when I started posting years ago. Like I could have never envisioned this. So just thinking what you're saying is like, I don't think we need to be crystal clear on exactly what the path is that we like the end goal. I don't think we need to be crystal clear on that. I think we need to be crystal clear on like what it is that what our non-negotiables are, what it is that we won't give up on, right? Because it's like, okay, I didn't know, I couldn't perfectly envision what Momlay is now, but I perfectly knew, and I knew I would show up every day. I told Brody, once I committed, I'm like, I know I won't fail because I won't quit. Yeah. And I'm like, you can take it all away, I will rebuild it. And I feel like those are the things that I've started working on now. And like we create 5-year, 10-year goals, Brody and I do when we do our goal setting retreats, and we write those things down. But it's not the 5-year, 10-year goal that like gets you to the goal, you know? And so I think like if I was starting from scratch or just looking forward to my life right now, like, okay, 5 years from now, let's get crystal clear on what my vision is. Right. I couldn't tell you exactly what that is because life is life and we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But I do know how I want to react. I do know how I want to show up each day. I do know the habits that make me feel my best. And I think when we get crystal clear on those things and we keep showing up that way, that's what leads us up the mountain. It's like, I ran this trail race, this mountain race. It was just straight uphill. It was literally like horrible race. No, it was actually awesome. But like, I remember I looked up to the top and I felt so defeated because I'm like, that, like, you know, when you're swimming to an island and you just feel like it keeps getting further away.
I'm not.
Have you
I
ever
don't live
done
in
that?
Hawaii, but
Okay, well, you know, you're swimming, it's further than you thought.
I don't live by the ocean.
You know?
but- yeah, I can imagine
or you're,
it.
like,
I've seen
looking up.
Moana.
Yeah.
and- yeah.
You're like looking up when you're hiking and you're like, oh my gosh, we're never going to get to the
Yeah.
top, you know?
There's another peak.
Yes, there's just, it's always something else. And I think that's like our big long-term vision.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just remember in that race,
Totally.
I literally I'm like, you're not allowed to look at the top anymore because it's not going to get you there. Looking at the top is not going to get you there. The only thing that's going to get you there is your steps. So I just started counting my steps over and over and over again to 100. And I do that now in races all the time. But just like 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over and over again to 100. Because like I knew that's the only way that I could get to the top of the mountain. And I think the same thing with like our vision. It's like you can have the mountain. What does the mountain look like for you? Does it need to be like crystal clear? No. But unless you know exactly what like those steps are that you're taking every day, it doesn't matter how crystal clear that vision is. Like, I'm going to drive this car and I'm going to have this house. You'll never get there,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, how
That's a
can you
great
show
analogy,
up
actually.
today?
Yeah.
And how can you be so crystal clear on how you want to show up?
Yeah.
Start small, build.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because, I mean, even though you can maybe see the peak, the mountain,
Yeah.
but you can't see the detail.
No, you don't know where the tree is. You don't know where the rock is. You don't know there's a stream at the top,
You don't know if there's even a deer up there.
or maybe a
you
cliff,
can't see anything. Right.
you know?
You don't know what it's going to look like either looking
No.
down. You can't imagine that.
You can't.
I think that's a perfect analogy.
But it's like, that's what you can get clear
But that's
on.
what you're striving for.
And that's what changes your life.
Yeah.
Don't get held up on being perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the right time to start. You're always going to feel scared.
Yeah.
It's always going to feel like the wrong time, or you're not ready, or you're not capable. And like, now that you know that, sweet, what are you going to
Yeah. But here's the other thing that I'm noticing from you, and I learned this about you today, I think.
do?
And it's that you're in tune with your feelings more than a lot of people. And maybe women are more that way anyway, but I feel like you're like more hyper aware, and that's a good thing. I mean, I'm saying that in a
Yeah.
really good way.
Yeah.
Like when you talk, you're talking about I didn't really know how I was going to get there, but like I felt like I could do it. I
Yes.
felt.
Yes.
You say these things over and over in this podcast. If we rewind it, there's a lot of I felt this, I thought and felt this, right? And I was feeling like this.
Yep.
And those are the things that are driving you. So it's like for women too, it's like you're going to have both though. And you did
Yes.
too. But which one are you going to feed?
Yeah.
And which one are you going to listen to?
And like feeling it, and also knowing that like those things are what like help us move forward too.
Yeah. The
Like,
pain can. Everything good
yes.
is on the other side of pain.
And
I say that all the time.
rewiring in your brain what certain feelings mean to you has
Mhm.
been like a huge thing to me. Is like, you know, fear or discouragement, whatever
Yeah.
that is that you're feeling consistently in your life. Like now I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling fear, we've been taught that that's bad. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
standing on the edge of the cliff, like, yeah, don't do anything crazy. But like fear in life, we've been taught that that's generally like a
Yeah.
bad feeling.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so determined. Like I love thinking about these things at night. Like, what is the feeling that I'm feeling? And like, where is this leading me? And how can I rewire that in my brain to be like, oh, this is a good thing. Remember last time you felt this way and this happened? Or remember last time like you were able to push through this? And just like noticing those things about yourself. And so it's like our femininity, like our feelings, being more hyper aware of those things, I think can make us so great, especially as leaders in business.
Yep.
And I feel really passionate about that, and just like disrupting the space and what we think success has to be. Like, I run a successful business. I'm a great mom.
Yeah.
I have a great team. I feel great about life, and I work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Usually less, rarely more. And it's like, you can do it that way too, because that's how I want to do it.
Love it. That's so good. I feel like there's so many gems in this podcast, and I'm super grateful that you came on because I learned some things today having you on. I learned more about you. I learned more about like how you think, and it's inspiring for me. So I appreciate you
Thanks.
sharing a lot of that.
Thanks for having me on. It was
Yeah.
so fun.
I think a lot of people are going to get a lot from this. So where do people find you?
Yes.
If they don't already. I know they probably do, but where do they find you? How do they reach
No,
out to you? How do
yeah.
they become a part of your community?
Yes, we'd love to have you. You can find me on Instagram. It's at MameleFit, MAMELE. Or I also have my personal page, Andrea Fausett. That's where you get to see my kids and Brody and I getting competitive or just, you know, living life. And then you can also find Mamele on the App Store, MAMELE, Google, or
My wife
Apple.
has it. Every girl I think was. Yeah, everybody
That's so
has it.
nice. You can download it. There's a 7-day free trial. Just try it out. We actually just built out a community page in the app. So we don't use any other platforms anymore. And I'm love this because you can be completely off social media, but completely connected with the right things. And so we built a community platform within the app. You can go and connect with women there. Join our 6-week challenge. That will be more towards the end of the year. You'll see that on Instagram. And yeah, come say hi.
That's cool.
Love to see you.
Okay. Well, that's how you find Andrea. So I hope you reach out to her because I think she's an amazing person, and she's leading a lot of women down the path that I think we need right now in our world, in our country, in our communities. So honoring you for what you've done and built, and just like pushing past that fear and actually making it happen, because we need more people like you. So anyway, that was episode 9. Super awesome. Stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, guys.